Welcome to Life Stories. Have you ever given everything to someone you loved, only to realize they never truly saw you? Imagine sitting at your own son's wedding, silent, invisible, and left out, while you paid for it all. Every flower, every chair, every detail of his dream day. It's a moment that could break anyone. But what if it's not the breaking that defines you? It's the rising. In today's story, Emily is about to discover the truth about herself, about love, and about the power of finally being seen. It's a journey from sacrifice to self-discovery, from silence to strength. Stay with us, because what happens next will change everything. And it all starts with a simple chair, a wedding, and a mother who is finally ready to be heard. The heat in the kitchen was stifling. It clung to Emily's skin, seeping through her dress and leaving the faint scent of marinara in her hair. She stood there, her hand gripping her handbag tightly, her fingers trembling slightly as the distant sounds of laughter and music from the reception hall echoed in her ears. The smell of garlic, onions, and freshly baked bread wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket. She had paid for every detail, every flower, every chair, the venue, the photographer, the band. She had meticulously planned every moment, every second, just to see her son, Matt, take his vows with his new bride, Chloe. But as the door swung open behind her, she realized that she wasn't part of the picture. Not anymore. No one had told her where to sit. No one had asked her opinion. She had simply been placed in the back, a folding chair wedged between a stack of used trays and a cart with a broken wheel. She was invisible, a mere afterthought. It wasn't even the lack of attention that hurt, though it stung, but the absolute certainty that this had been intentional. Chloe's mother, Susan, had made it clear in the months leading up to the wedding that they didn't want Emily in the spotlight. Not for the photos, not for the speeches, not for anything. Emily was just the one who paid for it all. Just the wallet. She glanced at Matt as he stood at the front of the room, smiling widely, adjusting his cufflinks. His face was radiant as Chloe's father proudly walked her down the aisle, her mother giving the first speech. Emily could see it all from the kitchen door, the grand chandelier hanging above them, the soft golden light illuminating the couple as they danced their first dance. And yet, despite everything she had sacrificed, everything she had given, no one even looked her way. Not once. Her heart twisted as she sat down in the folding chair, her hand pressed against her chest as she tried to steady her breath. The chair creaked beneath her, and she looked down at the cold, untouched chicken breast on the chipped plate in front of her. Her fingers were shaking. The whole day was a lie, and she had been a fool for thinking it would be anything else. She had spent hours getting ready, pouring herself into her appearance, into making sure everything was perfect. But now, none of it mattered. Not the dress she had chosen so carefully. Not the makeup, not the hours she spent convincing herself that this day would be as special for her as it was for Matt. The catering manager, a young man who couldn't have been more than 20, stepped forward with an awkward smile. They said you were supposed to wait back here, ma'am," he said, eyes darting nervously toward the kitchen door as the sound of laughter spilled out. The bride didn't want, any visual clashes with the theme. Theme? Emily repeated, her voice low, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. She stared at the boy, her heart pounding in her chest. The theme, this entire day, was built on exclusion, on making sure she didn't exist in the background, let alone in the foreground. They wanted everything to be perfect, but they didn't want her to be part of it. Emily looked back at the door, at the celebration happening on the other side. She could see the glint of gold on the tables, the guests laughing and raising their glasses in toasts. Matt was there too, laughing, smiling with Chloe. She pressed her napkin to her mouth, pretending to dab away the tears she refused to let fall. A familiar voice echoed through the kitchen, distant yet painfully close. "You were never meant to be part of this." The words hit her like a physical blow. They weren't new. She had heard them in her mind 1,000 times before, but today they were sharper, more painful than ever. She had spent years pretending that it didn't matter, that she mattered. But she realized now, as she sat there behind the swinging doors, that she never had. The seating arrangements had been made, but not for her. She was not invited to this family, to this celebration. She was only there to pay, to make it happen. And as the music played on, Emily did something she hadn't done in years. She allowed herself to feel the rage, the frustration, the heartbreak. She was done pretending, done hiding in the shadows. She reached for her phone with trembling hands, her fingers moving with a kind of cold precision. She canceled everything, everything she had paid for, every detail. The flowers for tomorrow's brunch, the second half of the band's payment, the open bar. The music would stop. The flowers would never arrive. The night would be ruined, and they would know why. She would make them see her. As she hit send, the weight of the decision settled over her. She didn't feel guilt. She didn't feel regret. She felt power, something she hadn't known in years, and she was ready for it. The wedding would go on, but not without a cost. Not without them knowing that she was no longer their invisible woman, no longer the one they used and discarded. What would you do if you were in Emily's position? Would you stay silent or fight back? What is the cost of always being there for someone who never notices you? Emily stared at the phone in her hand, a strange calm settling in her chest. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, she would make them remember who she was, and this time it wouldn't be in the background. It would be at the forefront, in her own life. But for now, she waited. The air felt thick with expectation, like something was about to break. And she wasn't sure what would come next, but she knew it would be worth watching. And Emily was ready. The next morning, Emily woke up with the sun casting a pale light through the curtains. She hadn't slept much, her mind racing with the decision she had made the night before. It wasn't regret she felt. It was the quiet hum of something unfamiliar, something like freedom, but edged with a bitter sting. She lay there for a while, her mind replaying the events of yesterday, the wedding, her place behind the kitchen doors, the cruel reality that her son, Matt, had chosen to ignore her presence completely. But as the day wore on, she began to feel the weight of her actions settle within her. The quiet hum of power from last night was no longer so comforting. It had opened something in her, something dark and painful. She had made her stand, but at what cost? Matt hadn't called. Not once. The calls had stopped ringing, the texts had stopped buzzing. For a fleeting moment, she felt the satisfaction of silence, the peace of being left alone. But then, the anger came, sharper than before. How dare they? How dare he? The words floated in her mind like a steady, pulsing echo, and her fingers itched to do something, anything to make it right, to make them realize what they had done. She stood up, the floor cool beneath her feet, and walked to the window, staring out at the quiet street. Her fingers brushed the wooden frame of the window as the morning air stirred. The silence outside was a stark contrast to the chaos she felt within. A soft chime from her phone interrupted the stillness. Her heart skipped a beat. She looked at the screen, but it wasn't a message from Matt. It was from her cousin, Diane. She hadn't spoken to Diane in months, and the message was short, one line, simple and to the point. Emily, please call me. I know what happened at the wedding. A tight knot twisted in Emily's stomach. She hadn't expected Diane to reach out. No one had. She'd been forgotten, left behind, a shadow in the background of a life she had built for someone else. But here it was, an unexpected thread pulling her back into the reality she had been avoiding. She tapped the screen, her fingers trembling, and hit dial. Emily? Diane's voice was tentative, like she was unsure if she was crossing a line. I don't know how to say this, but I saw what happened. I saw where you were sitting. I saw the way they treated you. And I can't believe it. Emily didn't speak at first, her throat tightening as the words Diane had spoken sank in. Saw what happened? It hit her suddenly, with the force of a punch. Someone else had witnessed her humiliation. And more than that, someone cared enough to call her. But why? Why now? Diane, don't, Emily whispered, her voice barely audible. Don't pretend like you didn't know. Don't act like you didn't see me back there. behind the kitchen doors, forgotten. She felt the anger rising, hot and raw in her chest. You didn't care then. You were just like everyone else, walking past, pretending I didn't exist. I'm sorry, Diane said quickly, her voice breaking. I didn't know what to do. Everyone was so focused on the wedding, and then you were just gone. It was like no one wanted to acknowledge what they had done to you. And I should have said something. I should have stepped up, but I didn't. I didn't know how. There was silence on the other end of the line, and Emily could feel Diane's guilt seeping through the words. Emily swallowed, pushing back the lump that had formed in her throat. How could Diane not have known? How could anyone not have seen what they had done to her? Was it her fault? Had she let them do this to her all these years because she kept quiet? No, Emily said, her voice firm now. It's not your fault, Diane. I let it happen. I let them erase me. I let Matt forget me, and I let Chloe. I let her make me invisible. She paused, the tears she had been holding back finally breaking free. But not anymore. Not today. Emily, Diane said gently, I know you're hurting and I know this is hard, but you need to talk to Matt. You need to let him know what's going on inside. He's your son. You've given him everything, and he has to understand how much this is killing you. He's not going to know unless you tell him. A bitter laugh escaped Emily's lips. Tell him? You think he'll listen to me? After everything? He's already made his choice. Chloe's his family now, not me. Her voice cracked as the words left her mouth. Maybe it's too late for me to be his mother, Diane. Maybe I've been replaced. The phone line was silent for a long moment. Emily could hear Diane's breath on the other end, as if she were weighing every word. Finally, Diane spoke, her voice soft but steady. Emily, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be the one to always fix everything. You've already given him everything, but you need to give yourself something now. Yourself. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to have a voice. Emily stared out the window, her eyes blurred by the rush of emotions. Diane's words felt like a lifeline. For the first time, she realized she had been living her life for everyone else, carrying the weight of others' expectations, their needs, their dreams. But now, she was finally asking herself, what about me? What about Emily? What did she deserve? The realization hit her like a thunderclap. She had spent so many years trying to prove her worth to Matt, to Chloe, to everyone else, never questioning if she was worth the effort. But now, standing in the middle of this painful emotional storm, she realized that she had the power to stop, to reclaim herself. I'm done, Diane, Emily said, her voice strong now, unshakable. I've been invisible for too long, and I'm done hiding in the shadows. I'm going to make them see me, all of them, and I'm going to start with Matt. She hung up the phone, her heart pounding in her chest. It was time. Time to take back the life that had been taken from her, piece by piece. She wasn't going to be the woman who silently watched anymore. She wasn't going to be the one who was erased. She was going to be seen. How much would you sacrifice for the people you love? And how do you reclaim your own voice when it feels like it's been stolen? As Emily took a deep breath, her phone buzzed once again. It was a message from Matt. She stared at the screen, unsure of what to expect. The message was short, direct, but it carried something more than anger. Mom, where are you? We need to talk. For the first time in a long while, Emily didn't feel afraid. The conversation was coming, and she was ready for it. The doorbell rang moments later, a knock that would change everything. The doorbell rang again, the sound cutting through the stillness of the room like an echo. Emily stood frozen for a moment, her heart beating so loudly in her chest that it drowned out everything else. She had been waiting for this moment. But now that it was here, she wasn't sure she was ready. She had spent so many years pretending, hiding in the shadows, always willing to be the invisible woman in everyone else's life. But now, standing in the silence of her home, she realized that she had no choice but to face what she had been avoiding. The knock came again, this time louder, more insistent. Emily's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the door. She hesitated, taking a deep breath to steady herself before she turned the handle. When she opened the door, Matt was standing there, his face weary, eyes dark with exhaustion. The sight of him made Emily's chest tighten. Her son, her boy, the one she had raised with everything she had, stood before her, but he wasn't the same person she remembered. There was a distance between them now, an unspoken barrier that she wasn't sure could ever be crossed. "Mom," he said quietly, his voice hoarse, as if he had been rehearsing what to say but didn't know how to start. I I don't understand. What happened? Why did you cancel everything?" Emily stood there for a moment, unsure of how to respond. She had thought about this moment 1,000 times, running through the words in her head, imagining the conversation. But now, faced with the reality of it, the words didn't seem to come. "I don't think you do understand, Matt," she said softly, her voice steady but filled with an edge of pain. "And I'm not sure you ever will, but I'll try to explain." She stepped aside, motioning for him to come in. He hesitated for a moment, then walked past her into the living room, looking around at the empty frames on the mantel. The absence of the photographs that once filled every inch of their home. The silence between them was thick, almost suffocating. "Where are the pictures?" he asked quietly, his gaze lingering on the empty spaces on the wall. "What happened to them?" Emily took a deep breath. "They're gone. I took them down." Matt turned to face her, confusion written across his face. "Why? Why would you do that?" "Because I'm done, Matt," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "I'm done pretending, done being the background in your life. I've spent years being your mother, sacrificing everything for you, and you've never once noticed. You've never seen me." The words came out like a rush, and Emily wasn't sure where the strength had come from to say them. But it felt good, too good, to finally let it all out. Matt took a step toward her, his hands raised in defense. "Mom, I didn't mean—" "I know you didn't," Emily interrupted, her voice growing firmer. "But that's the problem. You didn't mean to. You didn't even think about it. You were too busy with Chloe, too busy building a life that didn't have room for me. I didn't even get a seat at my own son's wedding, Matt. Do you understand that?" He flinched at her words, his face reddening with guilt. "I didn't know. I didn't know that's how you felt. I thought everything was fine. Chloe and I just wanted—" "Chloe and I," Emily repeated, the bitterness rising in her throat. "You and Chloe. Always. It's never been us, has it? It's always been her family, her vision, her life. But that's not why I'm here, Matt. That's not what this is about." She paused, looking at him with a quiet intensity. "This is about me finally understanding something. I spent so many years trying to make you see me, trying to make you appreciate all I had done for you. But the truth is, you never wanted to see it. You never wanted to see me." Matt took a step back, his face softening, but his eyes still filled with confusion. "I don't know what to say, Mom. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted to make everything perfect for Chloe. I thought—" "You thought what?" Emily's voice was sharp now, the pain of years of silence finally breaking through. "You thought I didn't matter? That I would just fade away and let you have your life? Well, I'm not fading anymore. I'm not invisible." Matt opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Instead, he simply stood there, staring at her, a mixture of guilt and sadness in his eyes. It was clear he had no idea how to fix this, how to make things right. Emily took another step forward, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice unwavering. "You didn't see me, Matt. You didn't see everything I sacrificed for you. All the nights I stayed up, all the things I gave up, all the pain I endured just to give you a better life. I did it all because I loved you, but I'm not going to keep giving anymore. Not when you can't even see me for who I am." The room was silent, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. Matt stood frozen, unable to speak, and Emily could see the wheels turning in his mind. She knew that he was realizing, for the first time, the weight of everything she had carried alone. "Mom?" he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. I never understood. I never realized how much you've done for me." Emily shook her head. "I know you didn't, Matt. And maybe that's the hardest part. But I'm done being the woman in the background, Done being the one who gets lost in everyone else's lives. I'm done. And I don't know what that means for us, but I can't keep pretending anymore. There was a long pause. Matt's eyes were wide, filled with a sorrow that Emily hadn't seen before. He stepped toward her, his hands trembling. I don't know how to fix this, Mom. I don't know if I can. You don't have to fix it, Emily replied, her voice soft now. But maybe, just maybe, you'll start seeing me. Really seeing me. Matt stood there, looking at her with a mixture of grief and regret. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he simply nodded, the weight of everything between them hanging heavily in the air. Goodbye, Matt, Emily said quietly, her voice steady. Maybe one day we'll find a way back to each other. But for now, I need to find myself again. And I'm not sure where that will lead. Matt didn't answer. He didn't need to. He simply turned and walked out the door, leaving Emily standing alone in the silence of her home. As the door clicked shut behind him, Emily took a deep breath. She hadn't cried. Not yet. But she knew she would. She also knew that this was the beginning of something new. Something she had been waiting for, but never quite understood until now. What do you think Emily will do next in her journey of self-discovery? Do you think Matt will ever truly understand the depth of her sacrifice? As Emily sat down at the table, the quiet weight of the moment settling in, she felt a strange peace. The pain was still there, but now it was something she could carry, not something that defined her. For the first time in years, she was free.